I don't think I could handle another 2 games like that. What a dramatic way to win a football game.
You say we've aged. I mean, I thought, in fact, I have been unwell since that.
I'd just like to say, do you think we should have a statue for Darren England and Chris Kavanagh just outside
Always
the
loved
Emirates?
him.
We're now calling a Premier League problem an Arsenal problem. And therefore, when it's Arsenal involved, people are desperate to start going back and looking at different things. Where I've got an issue is with people that have got nothing to do with the implications of this game jumping on the bandwagon. And some of the punditry, and they should know better, I'm sorry, especially a goalkeeper claiming that Raya went foul. I was extra pleased for him, actually, to be the man to get the goal. And I think you could see in his celebration that maybe he's been carrying a weight around with him that we don't necessarily know about.
You have big players who step up at big, crucial moments.
What did you make of Gary Neville's comments around the Ben White injury?
Complete lazy punditry, because it was a 50-50.
The context of this game and the season, I think, has been one of the defining moments of Mikel Arteta's reign. Is he Arsenal's greatest ever manager?
It actually makes me smile how much are in other fans' heads.
Hello, I'm Nick Bright and welcome to Inside Gooners, bringing you all the latest news and reaction from the mighty Arsenal. And breathe. I don't think I could handle another 2 games like that. What a dramatic way to win a football game at the London Stadium. Strap yourselves in. We're going to go through it all. And here to do just that is former Arsenal winger Perry Groves and broadcaster Harry Symeou. And I'm delighted to say that this show is sponsored by BetMGM. Download the app or visit betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org. And please gamble responsibly. Harry, Perry, I think we've all aged by 10 years in 4 minutes or whatever that VAR check was.
To be fair, it was pretty routine, wasn't it? Pretty uneventful. It's amazing. Obviously, we'll talk about the overturned goal later on. But it's football fans in general, the emotions that you go through, not mentally, psychologically, in your heart, in your blood, where you can be the depths of despair and hell 1 second, and then gradually come out and think, oh, there's a little bit of hope. Oh, let's have a look at it. Oh, God, it could be able to. And then to the heights of exaltation. Do you know what I mean? It is, football is absolutely, I think it's one of the few sports that takes you with those emotions, so quickly. And lucky for us, we end up on the right side of it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of refereeing decisions over the course of the last few years that you can debate and all the rest of it. I think for me, once I saw, the fact that there was clearly a foul on Raya, I was quite confident in believing that they would chalk it out. But then you start to think, don't you? And it's to your point about the emotions. You start to think, well, actually, they've set a precedent before of not doing what you expect them to do.
And they could be fouled
making up as they're going along and looking at the tiniest little things. So, yeah, the emotional roller coaster that we went through on Sunday, I mean, it's amazing when you come out the right side of it. But you say we've aged. I mean, I thought, in fact, I have been unwell since that. I've actually been on.
What's that? You got your heart rate up?
Everything.
Your blood pressure? The whole thing?
Everything. Normally we would go through things kind of in a chronological order and talk about, what happened in the game. But I think we have to start the show, essentially, with talking about the overturned decision for the West Ham goal. So, Perry, your thoughts on it, because Harry's already touched on it. It was a foul for me, an absolute foul. But that didn't make it any easier in the moment. I was worried.
I'd just like to say, do you think we should have a statue for Darren England and Chris Kavanagh just outside
Always
the Emirates?
loved him.
Exactly, yeah. Always knew that he could spot where his infringements, whatever. I was lucky enough to be at the game, and I had a feeling in my stomach when Callum Wilson come on anyway. Because,
were you working or were you?
Yeah, I was working,
right,
yeah. And because he's got reputation of scoring big goals coming on sub, and I was pleased he wasn't starting, actually, because I think he's a real threat. So, when someone comes, you think, oh, no, I don't want him coming on. And then when it looked like initially that David Raya, he had got himself caught underneath the ball and got involved in the melee that was going on around him, I just looked at it and same thing, heart sunk, everything, stomach, everything fell out, and I was just sitting there. And then Sam Matterface sitting next to me, and he went, oh, they might be looking at this. And that's that little, that little glimmer of hope. Yeah. You think, oh, here we go, and you cling on to it. And then when you look at it, I must admit, I'm totally against VAR. I hate VAR. I think it's a joy sucker, takes away the spontaneity of the game, whatever. And then when you look at it, you think, well, it's like WWE. There's grappling going all over the place. Are they going to actually single out one foul? And Arteta was getting on pointing to his forearm. Then when you look at it first, you think, oh, is he saying there's a handball? Like, is Callum Wilson handballed it before he's actually smashed it in? And you look at it, think, ain't. Then they like analyse it and they give you freeze frames. And what we was given, we didn't actually see the clear arm of Pablo across David Raya's chest or the Todibo like pull. So we didn't see it. And then obviously when then he goes over to the monitor, then you're thinking it's 90% that he's going to overrule it. Do you know what I mean? He's going to overturn it. But there's still that bit in your mind going, no, he's a strong referee, Chris Kavanagh. He likes to let you know things that I've seen you haven't seen. There was a bit of me looking at it thinking, he could be one of these referees who just looks at it and goes, actually, no, I'm going with my original decision. And then when he goes and says, everything goes quiet, and you get a bit of a buzz, so someone must have heard, obviously, Darren England speaking to him, and it goes round. So I probably knew 5 seconds before he actually announced it, and then you just go, oh, my God. We've actually, in my head, it was like, we've got a wave on here. It is like season-defining, it could be era-defining for this group of Arsenal players, So I'm still, even though it's worked for us and we've come on the right side of it, I'm still anti-VAR. I've got to just, because that one decision, but it's worked for us, but I'm still not into VAR.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
I think what's interesting about that is that, for me, it's the discourse that you see afterwards, right?
Yeah.
I think if you look at what's happened to David Raya, he's clearly been fouled. He's had, as you mentioned, the arm across him, which has prevented him from being able to grasp a ball that's clearly coming into his hands.
Yeah, he'd catch it if the hand wasn't
absolutely. And he's having his shirt pulled from behind, right? There's no doubt there's a foul on David Raya. But then you start to worry about all the other stuff that's going on in the box, which some people have pointed out. And listen, rightly so. We have a problem in the Premier League right now with the level of grappling that we're seeing from set pieces. I admit that's a problem. We have taken advantage of that as a football club. We are the best at it. But with that, what we've got is a miscategorisation, in my opinion, whereby we're now calling a Premier League problem an Arsenal problem. And therefore, when it's Arsenal involved, people are desperate to start going back and looking at different things. There was a compilation going around online last night, right, where somebody had gone through all the goals that we scored from set pieces, where there are instances where we've not locked the goalkeeper down by holding his arms or pulling his shirt.
Oh, you're the nuisance. You're the nuisance
where
around
you're in
him.
his spaces,
exactly around him.
where you may be leaning in a little bit, which is totally different. This foul on Raya was blatant. Those are not blatant. Those are debatable. This one was not. But listen, if we've got a problem with the grappling in the box, which I think we do in the Premier League generally, in the summer, the PGMOL need to sit down and they need to figure out a way to clamp down. You can't, 2 games from the end of the season, move the goalposts and start refereeing games differently. So, we are where we are. It was horrible to watch, horrible to experience, but we've done it. We got the goal.
I must admit,
we got the result.
We're all Gooners, right? Even when that was overturned, in my head I'd think, this is going to be funny because the outrage it's going to be because it's Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? You see, just because they haven't got decisions right in the past, which have been much better, doesn't mean to say that they completely change of this one. And it's not our fault. It's not Arsenal Football Club's fault. Do you know what I mean? It's the PGMOL. As you said, the easiest way to do it is to stop, not all of it, but most of it is, there's this lazy defending now where, when I was playing, if you was being man-marked, the person marking you would have one eye on the ball and one eye on you, so they'd be side on. Now, if you look, don't matter what team it is for the attackers, when the attacker's trying to get to the ball, the defender is actually facing the attacker and just don't look at the ball and they're just facing him, and half the time they've got their hands around him. So if the PGML at the end of this season say, right, at the beginning of the season, if any of the referees see someone grappling and they're not even looking at the flight of the ball, because your referee pulls both players over, and I'm thinking, why are you talking to the attacker? Because the attacker's the one who's actually trying to watch the ball to see where it's going. If they give penalties, trust me, it'll be carnage for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then it will settle down again. And if they stay consistent, it will stop lazy. It's lazy defending. The grappling. We do it. I'm not saying that we don't. Everybody does it. Everybody has a grapple. That's the easy way to stop it. But the outrage in the neutrals' heads, I knew it was coming. Do you know what I mean? And you actually think, bit of a wry smile, really, because it would make them even more pain.
Do you know what, though? I don't mind rival fans being upset about it. I especially don't mind West Ham fans being upset about it because They're fighting for their lives at the bottom of the league. I get it. There's emotions there. I don't mind Man City fans being upset about it because obviously they're trying to win the Premier League title.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's like,
but
I don't mind.
Where I've got an issue is with people that have got nothing to do with the implications of this game jumping on the bandwagon, and some of the punditry from people that should know.
I was going to ask you about this.
Yeah.
Danny Murphy for me on Match of the Day was spot on.
Yeah.
Right. Shay Given, I'm sorry, I respect him. He's played the game.
Play for?
Yeah, I know, but he's played the game.
Schmeichel as well. I don't know if you've seen that
exactly,
about.
They've all played at a level that I could only ever dream of getting near, right? So I do have a level of respect for them. But come on, some of the things that we hear coming out of their mouths are nonsense, and they should know better. I'm sorry, especially a goalkeeper claiming that Raya went foul.
Shay Given on Match Day last night, right? Obviously, because you can tell that his punditry is a little bit biased, right? Danny Murphy, who has no dog in the fight, he's looking at it and he can be with no emotion about it and just be very clinical about, yep, it's a foul. And as you said, Peter Schmeichel and Shay Given. And to be fair, I was at both press conferences afterwards. I very rarely stay for the press conferences with like Arteta saying how much courage. When Nuno Espirito Santo came in, ex-goalkeeper himself, I was thinking the best question you can ask him is, you're an ex-goalkeeper, what do you think? And if you listen to he didn't actually go on a massive rant about, it's outrageous. He just said, it's a problem with the grappling. Because he knows, him being an ex-goalkeeper, if someone puts their arm across you, you would want the free kick. Do you know what I mean? So, I just thought, and like Darren Cann actually explained it as well, chronologically, why they came to that decision. And then you look at it and you go, OK, and I'm saying, being honest, it was a melee. And if it hadn't have been overturned, it wouldn't have been outrage either. Do you know what I mean? Because not one Arsenal fan looked at it initially and just thought, oh, there's something going on. There's a foul there. And it took, was it 4 minutes to get all the angles, 17 different looks. So, as I said, we come on the end of a VAR decision, which could have gone, let's be honest, it could have gone either way. But in the end, it was a foul.
Yeah, I think it was quite interesting, though. You know, like you've pointed out there, certain pundits are really outraged about it against Arsenal. But then on the coverage, because I was watching it at home, you know, you had, I know Wright, he was in the studio, and he's obviously, we know, 100% Arsenal. But then you had Roy Keane, who said it was a foul. You had Jamie Redknapp, who said it was a foul. You had Gary Neville, who said it was a foul. So you got all these pundits.
If Gary Neville says it's a foul, that means it was like an assault. It means, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. We should talk about what happened down our end. You know, Trossard, he's had a funny season, Leandro Trossard. You know, since the start of 2026, he's been off it. Let's be honest about it. But Harry, he's come up clutch for us once again with a really, really important goal. And massive props to Martin Ødegaard as well, because he held on to it for the perfect amount of time, laid it off to Trossard. And yeah, we got a deflection, but Trossard doing what we know he can do.
Yeah, I think the biggest sort of credit for that goal for me has to go to Ødegaard, because I think up until that point when we got into the final third, we just didn't have that little extra bit of quality. And with Martin Ødegaard, he receives the ball and then he takes three. One of them's a little bit iffy, but because he's got such good balance, he takes three really good touches and he's able to keep the ball really close to him, which means, I think it was Diouf, the closest defender, you can't dive in. You can't commit to try and getting this ball off him, because you can see that he's balanced, he's got quick feet, and he cuts it back to Trossard. I think Trossard's hitting the target anyway, regardless of the deflection. But for Trossard as well, it was a great moment because he has struggled at times in recent months. He's not been the usual Leandro Trossard in terms of volume of goals and stuff. And I woke up on Sunday morning, I'm sure people saw it, to a piece in one of the newspapers about his personal life, which I thought was unnecessary, really. If it is something that he's been dealing with recently or is dealing with now, to put that out on the morning of a game feels a little bit underhanded, in my opinion. I don't like stuff like that. They're footballers. Talk about the football, talk about what they're doing on the pitch. And so I was extra pleased for him, actually, to be the man to get the goal. And I think you could see in his celebration that maybe he's been carrying a weight around with him that we don't necessarily know about. And so for him to be the man that produced that moment, I thought it was great.
Do you know what it is that... What you said there, Alex, unfortunately, but fortunately, unfortunately, they're not just footballers anymore. They are media stars now. Footballers are now up with pop stars, aren't they? With actors, they're in that room. So what happens is, and it goes with, in the end, they're human beings, right? So with all the coverage that's been about his private life, I don't care if you're on £250,000 a week. That affects, as a human being, that affects you. Because if you're happy in your personal life, then it makes your job and work life a lot easier. So he's obviously had them problems. But the thing with Arteta, he went on a bit like Martinelli was being put inside, you know, for big games. Yeah. And then what he's done is he trusts Trossard, because when Trossard plays, he gives you a little bit more control. When it goes out to the left-hand side, he can cut in on the right, he can cut on his left. He had, obviously, the shot, which Bukayo Saka got the rebound from. So, again, another massive moment, obviously, in this semi against Atletico Madrid. And he's come in from the left-hand side and made sure that he's in the centre-forward position, because that's what you need to do. When it's on the right, the left comes in. When it's on the left, right comes in. And talk about Odegaard, he's been getting quite a lot of stick this season. I just said, he's just not in a rhythm. When he's playing and he's fit and he's a rhythm, we control games. And I wanted him to come on maybe a bit earlier with, obviously, Havertz. And what he does is, in that second half, we talk about the first half, obviously, with Declan Rice playing. Yeah,
we're getting there.
Exactly, yeah. So, but we controlled the first 25 minutes. Then we lost control. And then the second half, we had control of the game, but we didn't have the imagination, or it was clunky. It was like very sort of laboured. Eze was dropping too deep, because what you want is, even when it's in narrow spaces, you want your 10 in between. So they were like a 5-4-1 basically. You want your 10 in between the 4 and the 5, even if it's tight. But because he wasn't getting it pinged into him quickly, he started to drop it deeper. Then when Odegaard come on, you could just tell that he was thinking, I'm going to affect this game. I'm the captain. And that's when we'll look back, you have big players who step up at big, crucial moments. Great little 1-2 with Declan Rice, which was a great ball into him. But then, as H said, when he gets into the box, he knows he's in control. He knows now that with his awareness, his ability, that people can't dive in. But what he does brilliantly is he calms himself down. And it's the weight of the flick. It's the weight of the flick with his outside left foot, what he just rolls it to say to Trossard, by the way, you're in his first time. So he makes Trossard's mind up, gets the deflection, because there was a lot of times we had passes in the second half especially. I remember Zubimendi should have put Eze on the right, and he put it out. He was only 25, 30 yards, and he put it out of play. And that is tension. That's what the players knew what the whole game was about. So Arteta got that one 100% right. And in the end, that was the decision that ends up winning you the game.
Well, let's talk about one that I think we're all in agreement that he got very much wrong. And that was, Ben White, unfortunately, gets injured. He has to come off. And then, I don't know about you two, but when I saw Martin Zubimendi limbering up to come on, I was, that meme from the Hangover where it's like I was trying to work out what's going on with the formation, it was just the wrong choice.
Yeah, it was the wrong choice. I think at the time, if I'm trying to put myself in Mikel Arteta's shoes, I'm just trying to figure out what I think he was thinking at that time. I think he's thinking, we've got a lot of the ball, we're in control, I'd rather have another ball player coming on. And as good a defender as Christian Mosquera is, he's not really that. And I think the idea was that because we were so dominant at that stage in the game, Rice would be coming inside anyway, you'd have Calafiori doing it on the other side, and maybe it would work. But actually, it saw the impetus of the game swing the other way. Yeah. And we said to West Ham, basically, we're not able to dominate the middle anymore. We showed a weakness in the middle of the park because Zubimendi and Luis Skelly, as good of players as they are, they're not as dominant as Declan Rice. And nobody knows better what Declan Rice is capable of than West Ham. So we sort of showed a sign of weakness and we allowed them to start building in the game. He had to rectify it. Calafiori picked up some sort of injury as well, which I think pushed him towards it. I don't know if he'd have done it anyway, but certainly that played a part in the decisions that he made going forward. He had to change it again, and in the end he did, and thankfully he did, because I remember sitting there at half-time thinking, this is a mistake that could really, really cost us, and I've got no defence for it. My default position is often defend Mikel Arteta, because I think he's done a great job overall, but there's some things that you look at, and if you can't find the logic behind it, if you can't process it, then it's probably not worth defending. And that was one of those moments.
You said there, I think he was thinking. I think he was thinking too much. Yeah. I think he was overthinking. And it was, I've said before, like, it was a little bit Pep, really, wasn't it? It was a little bit, I know what we'll do. We'll put Declan Rice out there. If you remember, when Ben White got injured, Somerville, when he's run down left, there was two big tackles from Somerville. First one was on Declan Rice, where he overran it a bit, didn't he? He's faced his own goal.
Yeah.
And the next one was the block tackle and that got the whole crowd up. The whole crowd had no energy. We want to see brilliant stuff, don't we? Goals in top corners, but 2 block tackles can get the crowd wired up. That got the crowd wired up. Then obviously Ben White has to go off. And we totally dominated the first 25 minutes. The third with Calafiori coming in for the inverted, and then obviously Trossard had his header, which brilliant save from Hermansen, and then the next one hit the post. And what you do is, we know that Declan Rice is the one player that is irreplaceable in our team. And you take one of the, whoever you say is one of the best midfield players, dynamic midfield players, and you take them out of position, any team that weakens. It doesn't matter who else is coming on in the midfield place. And I was watching it, and there was a 10-minute period where Zubimendi ended up in right back, up against Somerville, and you're just looking at it thinking, I'm really sorry, Zubimendi, as good a player he is, he can't be one-on-one with Somerville. It's a mismatch. So sometimes football is very simple, and you would hope that even the coaching staff would say, actually, Gaffer, Mosquera is the one that you put on because he's brilliant defensively. Somerville's one of their 2 players that is going to give you problems in 1v1 or breaking. And you just say to Mosquera, you go and mark him. And that's exactly, in the end, what happened. So he got there, and lucky enough, we didn't concede by the time that he got there. Do you know what I mean?
The thing that was even stranger about it for me was that, OK, we were going out there to win the game, right? We knew that we needed to win the game for our title ambitions. If you had, for example, Piero Hincapié at left-back, a player who's more of a natural defender than Calafiori, for example, a player that isn't really going to wander and drift, then playing a midfielder at right-back, I still don't agree with it, but I can understand the logic behind it a bit more. You're saying we morph into a back 3 when we're in possession and you push Rice on. But the fact that you had Calafiori at left-back, who's never going to stay there, and then you put Declan Rice there, for me, was a complete mistake. And as I say, thankfully, he put it right.
Yeah. What did you make of, and Perry, I'll come to you as someone who's played the game, you know, what did you make of Gary Neville's comments around the Ben White injury? Because he was quite critical of Ben White, saying that essentially it was his fault that he got injured in that challenge.
Complete lazy punditry, because Ben White didn't pull out the challenge. It was a 50-50. Do you know what I mean? Say, because Declan Rice, Somerville tackled him first, and then ball spread out. And if you look at it, they both go. And what happens is, because Ben White has gone in with like his block tackle side foot, his knee joint then comes out, and Somerville's knee hits the inside of his knee. So your joint is hyperextended, and that's where you get the impact, and he's probably done some ligament damage. So I just thought it was. I think it was just very lazy, where it seemed like he wanted to criticise because Ben White has, you know, the reputation of that he doesn't like football. I think it was just sloppy and too easy, because 100% he didn't pull out that tackle. No chance.
Yeah. I thought it was just a weird thing to say, you know, like players get injured in 50-50 challenges all the time. And I just thought it was a strange thing to pick up on, especially like, you know, a player who probably has aspirations to maybe go to the World Cup and all of that, and he's criticising him for getting injured. Right, David Raya. I want to address something on the show right now, and that was last week we did a piece where I just asked the question, you know, David Raya, could he be considered for the Ballon d'Or? There's a few people who were shouting about it online, saying that that's what they wanted to see. So I just put it to the panel last week, and we have been getting absolutely roasted online for it. Give him the Ballon d'Or, I say. What a save. I mean, that one-on-one... my heart stopped. I thought if they score here, especially because the way we were playing at that point, I thought this might be the title gone. Oh,
I haven't looked at the comments from last week, and I probably won't now that you've said that.
We did people giving us pelters.
But you know, look, we all said that, you know, he's a top goalkeeper and he's brilliant, and he's been one of Arsenal's most important players this season. If you're talking about the Football Writers Association Player of the Year award that Bruno Fernandes won, a lot of Arsenal people have been putting Declan Rice forward and saying, you know, he should have won it. I think David Raya's got just as strong a case. I don't necessarily tend to go with goalkeepers myself for things like Ballon d'Ors, but now, I mean, look, the save's brilliant because he comes out and, for me, he makes it difficult for the forward in that he doesn't give anything away. He doesn't go down and say, dink it over me. He doesn't lunge in with sort of one arm and say, you can go around me. He sort of makes it difficult. He says to him, come on then, beat me. And obviously he can't. And also, and David Symeou made this point on social media last night, and I thought this was a great point, so I'm not going to claim it as my own. But when he wins the free kick in the end for the goal that's overturned, The reason he gets that is because he's so brave in his goalkeeping. He doesn't come and say, I'm going to punch it.
He's trying to catch it.
Yeah, he's trying to catch it. And if you go to punch that and you make some contact, albeit not the contact that you want, people are going to say, yeah, but he still got to the ball. Therefore, it's not a foul. But the fact that he's come out with both hands like that, because he's brave and he believes in his ability to come and catch it, actually, that's done him a massive favour. And it shows that being a proactive and aggressive goalkeeper, you know, there's benefits to that as well. I just think his all-round game at the moment is on another level. And you know, if we do go on and win this Premier League, then I think he'll be up there among those that deserve the most credit within this group.
Do you know what he has? He has all the great goalkeepers have a presence and an aura, and that's exactly what he's got. He's got a calmness about him, because if you remember when he first got inside, obviously when Arteta left Ramsdale out, he was the first 3 or 4 games, he was really nervous.
Shaky,
yeah, because he was under pressure because Ramsdale hadn't made any mistakes, and the fans loved Ramsdale, and so you could just tell he was a little bit sort of nervy, and then he grew into it. And if you look at him now, he's a total calm. It doesn't matter. And as well, what we think, he had a brilliant save in the first half from Castellanos from the diving header, which he made look quite easy, which was low down to his left-hand side. But the thing with him is, in games, it's not as if he's ever being peppered. It's not as if he's like an octopus where the opposition are putting us under massive pressure and he's pulling. So it's his concentration levels that are unreal. And when Fernandes goes through, and it's a good move from West Ham, when what you said there is, he doesn't rush out initially to go, right, I'm going to have to come and smother you. And then he doesn't commit himself because Fernandes takes the extra touch. And he's waiting. 9 times out of 10, goalkeepers lean one way or the other. I'll just go back to Michael Thomas's brilliant goal against Liverpool, where Bruce Grobler stayed, and then he just leant to the right, and that makes money. What he did, Peter Schmeichel-esque, he just said, right, no, you're going to have to do something brilliant to beat me here. And then Fernandes tries to give him the eyes because he tries to come back near post. And what he does is, his balance is great because he doesn't lean either way. Do you know what I mean? If you lean one way and it goes the other, that's when you can't readdress yourself. So he actually stays really balanced. And then when it goes to his right, then he's got like the balance to be able to get it with his right leg. So it's again, you can go back through the whole season. He's had games where we've been on top, and then they'll come back. And Neville Southall gave a brilliant analogy when he was playing, one of the best goalkeepers of my era. Normally, they say about goalkeepers, you're always concentrating. Right? He said, if you do that for the whole 90 minutes, it drains you. So he had what he called a traffic light system. So if his team were attacking, Everton were attacking, and it was in the opposition's third, it would be green. It'd be like, all right, yeah, we're just sort of looking at it and like a bit relaxed. Then if it comes into the middle third, it goes on to amber, where he's like, all right, I better be a little bit more switch on. Then when it comes into your defensive third, bang, then it's red. It's like, because he said your concentration, it's impossible for a goalkeeper to concentrate for night. I know they shout, don't they, and scream, and they keep because they want to keep himself in it. But he's got this presence now, and you see he calms down the rest of the back four because they've got total confidence in what he's going to do.
I think that save, in terms of the context of the season, where we are at the moment, the fact Manchester City dropped points, it's in our own hands, all of these different things. This game probably, and I'm not counting our chickens or anything, we still got to put in a big performance against Burnley and Crystal Palace.
Big games coming up. Yep.
But, the context of this game and the season, I think it's one of the defining moments of the season, one of the defining moments of Mikel Arteta's reign as Arsenal manager, and one of the defining moments of, this squad, really, because if we don't win the Premier League this season, I think that harms this squad in such a big way.
And it's also, sorry, Nick,
go ahead.
Quickly. It's also like people all season have sort of slagged us off for the way we play, right?
Yeah.
Our identity is how good we are defensively. It has been from the beginning of the season. For a couple of seasons now, you've looked at this team and gone, really good defensive unit. That sort of encapsulates what we are. A brilliant top-level performance, sometimes at that end of the pitch rather than the other end of the pitch. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a good defensive side and having a goalkeeper like that, making saves like that in those big moments. That for me, summarises what we are quite nicely.
Agreed. Where do you guys stand on... I don't know if you saw Thierry Henry's comments after us getting through to the Champions League final when he said we were known as the Invincibles, but you guys will be the Unforgettables if you do it. What are you guys thinking with regards to... And I don't always love to do comparisons because eras are different and the Invincibles were so good for so many reasons. But, you know, say if we win the league only, but not the Champions League, where does this team stack up versus the Invincibles? If we win both, if we only win the Champions League, what are your thoughts around all of that?
I think it's really simple. If we win both, they're the Immortals. They'll be immortalised because they're 3 games away from being the Immortals. 3 wins, then they're immortal because they will be the greatest team that Arsenal ever had because there's no comparison. You can't compare anybody else. If you win the Champions League and you win the Premier League, arguments
so
done.
Better than the Invincibles?
Yeah, they're gone. So the Invincibles then go down to second place because there is no comparison. You can argue individually with different players and, you know, who would be better individually and, you know, you have the mixed teams and who will get in that team, whatever. That's great. If they win both, argument's done. Can you imagine in their professional football careers and just in their careers, and that's why I love Declan Rice in the first leg of the semi-final where they pan across the faces, didn't they, when they're all lined up, and you see everybody who's concentrating, and he's looking around like that, and it Metropolitano going, with a smile on his face, thinking, this is where I should be, this is what I want to be. Not arrogant, just thinking, bring it on. They've all gone through ups and downs in their careers, you know, to get where they are. 3 games. I know it makes me feel excited. And I'm not an ex-player, but I'm a fan. 3 games from being immortalised in Arsenal's history. And then you go into football history because there's not many teams that have in the Premier League that have won the Premier League and the Champions League. So if we'd have all said begin the season, I'll guarantee you that you'll get to the end of the season and you win your 3 games and you win the Premier League and Champions League, we'd have lost our heads, wouldn't we? You'd have absolutely gone like crazy. So it's difficult to enjoy it, I've got to admit. you want to try and embrace it, but
I've got to say, I haven't enjoyed barely any of this season. It's been torture, right, for large periods. But we know that if we get over the line, even in one of them, it's still going to be a season to remember and it's all going to be worth it. But to Perry's point, if they win both, then I completely agree with you. They go down as the greatest Arsenal team ever. You're also right to say that on an individual level, it's probably not the best. Not in the attacking end of the pitch anyway. But does that really matter? Like, it'll be the achievements that they're remembered by, and fingers crossed they do it.
So does that mean you both agree with Piers Morgan, who this morning said the best 25-man squad in history?
In Arsenal's history or in history, just any football squad? No?
In world football history.
World football history. The squad depth, yeah. I mean, I've got to admit, you'd have to go into other team squad depths, which we probably haven't gone into. I would say, as a squad, it's the strongest squad we've had, because even if you look back to the Invincibles, and in my era, it was a first-team squad of like 14, 15, you know, where because only 1 sub and then 2 subs. Then, even the Invincibles, you say there was a squad of probably, 15, 16, who you'd say there was no drop-off, and lucky enough, we didn't get a lot of injuries. But I think the squad depth, I would say it is one of the strongest squads that you've had in Premier League history. You know, I haven't got the details of other, you know, Bundesliga squads or Serie A or, you know, international squads. But the other thing as well, Hate said about, you know, both or one each other. If we don't win the Premier League, but we win the Champions League, we're still going to get slaughtered.
Yeah.
We're still going to say it will be levelled at you bottled the Premier League. Yeah. So that's the mad place to win, because at the beginning of the season, if you'd offered me one of the two, I would have said Champions League, because we haven't won it before and we need the gold star on the, you know, so it calms everybody's arguments down. But now, if you're telling me now, in fact, so one, it would be I'd say, no, we've got to win the Premier League. Because you said about going forward, what happens is, when they win their first one, when we get to these situations again, it will calm the players will just look around each other and go, we're all right. Someone like yesterday, somebody will get us out of trouble. And the 3 players yesterday were Odegaard and Trossard and David Raya. And then they'll look around and go, oh, don't worry, we're all right. You know, like, obviously, Man City, the great teams that they've had, never panicked. The Man United teams, a great team, when they got that first one, they went, no, we're all right, I'll trust everybody.
And I agree with your point about sort of the Premier League being the one that people are going to really judge us on. Yeah. But if we do get over the line and we win that, that also makes the Champions League final, I'm not going to call it a free hit, because it's a Champions League final.
Be more relaxed.
And exactly.
Be more relaxed.
You go into it knowing, you know what, there's an opportunity there for us. Let's go and grab it without that overbearing pressure of having to win a trophy in a season where everybody sort of around Christmas time started forecasting you winning 4 trophies, if that makes sense.
I think the Arsenal fans enjoy it more. Arsenal fans would enjoy it, wouldn't they?
100%.
We'll go there, if you've got that, then it would just make Arsenal fans... Like, you're going to try and enjoy the occasion anyway, but I think it will make you embrace it and just more sensory take it all in and be in a happier place.
It will be absolutely brilliant if Manchester City drop points and we can rest players for the final game of the season. That will be superb, but let's not get too carried away there. Mikel Arteta, then, here's a question for you both. If we do the impossible and win both, well, it's not impossible, it's very much possible now, but, you know, if we actually win both, is he Arsenal's greatest ever manager?
I don't think you'd be able to say that over Arsene. I don't
Not
think,
yet.
personally, not yet.
No, not yet.
Even if he wins those 2 trophies?
No, but he could be on his way to it.
Yeah.
Because I do honestly believe that it would spark a chain reaction. I do think if Arsenal were to win one of both, especially of these 2 trophies, I think you could see them clean up for the next 3 or 4 seasons. And that's why I think I've personally felt so much tension this year, because I know that this group is there. It's capable. It just needs to get over the line the first time. And then I think the dynamic completely changes. So he could be on his way to being there. But I think it's almost disrespectful to Arsene and to the likes of George Graham as well to say, yeah, absolutely, he would be if he manages this in one season.
Yeah, what happens is he goes into conversation. And obviously, football's very on trend at the minute, but you've got to remember we're a club that's steeped in history. So then he goes into conversation with Herbert Chapman, with George Anderson, then Bertie Mee, my old manager George Graham, and then with Arsene Wenger, who is, in the modern times, the greatest manager we've ever had, because Arsene didn't just change our culture, he changed football culture in this country. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Everybody says that Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp changed it. We were pressing back in the late 80s, early 90s. Liverpool were pressing, so that's not new. But Arsene changed the way that football was played because Tony Adams started playing out from the back. Do you know what I mean? Centre-half started. It was Arsene Wenger who brought that sort of different style of football in. So yeah, if Arteta wins both, and or even if he wins one, then he goes in that conversation. But what H said there is, the beauty for Arsenal fans, and I thought what other football fans are dreading, if this team wins one or both, then there's a chance that football's cyclical, and there's a chance, obviously with, again, good recruitment, that you could go and win 2 of the next 3 or 3 of the next 4. But that, with Arteta, you can tell how driven he is. That's what he'll be. He's obviously concentrating completely on these 3 games now, which are the biggest 3 games of his career, players' careers. But then at the end of the season, it'll be right. He's been with Pep Guardiola and seen how he works. It's like, right, we go again. And there'll be 4, 5, maybe 6 players that will be gone and other players will be brought in. But we just got to... you know what I'm trying to do? I must admit, I'm just going to enjoy this week. You know, you just think... we can calm down until next month. We can all just like, all right. And then it doesn't start building up until about Friday or Saturday, because even though it's Burnley, you still have to beat Burnley. Do you know what I mean? You still have to go and do it and make sure your attitude is right. So there's no room for complacency, none at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, I think it's worth saying, you know, all the fallout and the crying from all the opposition fans, if we get this across the line, I think it makes it sweeter. Absolutely. I really do. Like, you know, that they're all so upset about it. It doesn't matter how we do it now because it's in our own hands. We were worried about goal difference before, but because City dropped points, none of that matters anymore. 1-0 off of someone's backside, that'd do me.
Who cares?
I said it on my podcast the other day, actually, as well. I think that all of this anti-Arsenal nonsense, and there is anti-Arsenal stuff out there, I'm sorry, I'm not having it that there isn't. What has happened is it's driven us all closer, I think.
Yeah.
Like, we're all on the same side, we're all together, and I think it's united us in a way that means as a fan base, we're probably stronger than we have been in years in terms of the unity, what that does for the players, how we all unite within the stadium, how we can influence potentially decisions in the stadium, influence performances. We're at our best when we're all united, and we're united because we can all see it now, that everybody, like, there's no debate about who the manager is at the moment because it's going well. There's no debate about some of the players because it's going well. So there's nothing to be divided about, and I think that puts us in a great place.
I said before, it actually makes me smile how much are in other fans' heads, how much energy that is taken. Because I've got to admit, I don't really... Obviously, that mob up the road, I want us to beat them, like North London, whatever. But I don't really overthink what is happening to other teams and what they're doing, because we've put ourselves in a position that everything is about us.
Yeah.
And it sounds, I don't know if selfish is the word, but it sounds maybe tunnel vision. But because where we are, we haven't got to worry about what's happening elsewhere. We haven't got to worry about what decisions are being made. It's just about concentrating on what we do. That is it. And let's be honest, we were watching the game yesterday. We all knew the complete outrage there was going to be because of VAR and because it's us. And people keep forgetting about the football side, and they're going, oh yeah, but you'll win the title because you go, no, you win the title because of 38 games.
Because you're the best.
West Ham get relegated, or that mob up the road get relegated because how bad they've been in 38 games, not just one decision that goes in your favour.
Yeah, completely agree. Right, before we go, we've got to discuss the next big step towards the title, and no one is counting their chickens. Burnley might be relegated, but they come to the Emirates on Monday. It's our last home game of the season, which has been a controversial point, a Monday 8 o'clock kickoff. But how do you think we should approach this one, Harry? Do you want to see us going for the jugular from the off at home in front of fans who will be jubilant?
Yeah, absolutely. I think same again in terms of what we saw in the first half against Fulham and what we saw in the first half against Atletico Madrid. I was at the Atletico Madrid game as a fan rather than working, and I enjoyed the whole occasion. Got there at about 5:30, whatever it was, nice and early, and everybody was in a kind of party mood. And it's not to say... Yeah, there's a buzz. Exactly. And it's not to say that people turned up expecting us to go through without any jeopardy whatsoever. But people sort of, I think, have gotten to the point in the season where they're going, hold on a minute, look at where we are. Embrace it, enjoy it. And if there's no reason to be nervous yet, then let's not create that anxiety before the game starts. The concourses have never been the way that they were. And with it being our final home game of the season, I think there's going to be a bit of that on Monday night. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff on a Monday. It's not ideal. And for a lot of people, that makes life difficult. And maybe that impacts the atmosphere a touch. But I still think there's so much happiness around Arsenal right now. There's so much excitement about what's on the horizon that there's going to be a buzz in the stadium that the players can feed off. And we should go out and put them to the sword.
Yeah, it's all about the way we approach it. It's all about us pressing from the front, closing down, because we're a physical side, and imposing yourself on the opposition. The first 25 minutes yesterday away from home, we imposed ourselves, and it's like, no, we've got... Because even if it turns into basketball, we've got better players. Do you know what I mean? I know Arteta wants control. Obviously, we want to be defensively solid, which is great. But just go, right, we're going to go and press and press and press and press. And the good thing about it is if we get an early goal, which obviously we did against Newcastle and did against Fulham, then it just calms everybody down. But again, if you're a player, this is where you want to be. Hopefully, Arteta, like he did last week, he'll give the players a couple of days off because, just go away, go with your families, settle down, get your brain, because mentally you could tell, again, Arsenal fans as well, don't listen to Gabriel Bonneho about over-celebrating. What a load of... Football is about losing your head, about losing your mind when you're in that moment, because there's enough times when you have... I was going to swear then, but I won't. But there's enough times when you have bad times. So it is about embracing those moments and losing it when you do get those big moments. So you've got to... You know what I mean? You have to try and enjoy it if you possibly can, because... Yesterday, when you saw the final whistle went, the players, they were absolutely exhausted. They were out on their feet. 4 or 5 of them, didn't they? Just collapsed. Because of the nervous energy and tension that you had before the game, then normally they didn't have the energy to actually go crazy. Obviously, it was brilliant when they gathered themselves and went over to the fans in the far corner and they all celebrated together. But that's why we watch football. You don't watch football to go, oh, well played, that was a very good game. It was a good 90 minutes. Let's look forward to the next and hopefully we might have a Woodbine or whatever. Yeah. It's about losing it. And if we get criticised for over-celebration, it means we're doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of nervous energy in here every time I come to do the show, I tell you. Quick one on Ben White, actually, or the right-hand side, I guess, for the Burnley game. Who do you think comes in? What do you think Arteta does? I don't think we'll see Declan Rice play in there, that's for sure.
It'll be Mosquera, won't it? Yeah, it'll definitely be Mosquera. And again, when Calafiori didn't come out, I actually said he must be carrying a slight knock because that, and then you hear that he has. I just hope that his injury isn't too serious. It's more precautionary than, like long term. But even then, if Nkapie goes at left back, he's not as good going forward, but as H said there, he's good defensively. But you might see he might play Lewis Skelly there because he might want him to go into midfield to create overload in that midfield area. So if it was me, I'd be Mosquera.
Yeah, I think I'd go Mosquera as well. I think sometimes, as Perry said earlier, sometimes you just need to simplify things. Who's the next guy waiting to take up that position? And as much as we love what Ben White's doing, and it's a shame because every time it feels like he's getting back to his best, we end up having to see him go through another setback. So it's a difficult one. I don't think he can play 3 games in a week anymore. And I think we've got to be mindful of that going forward. And I did say in the lead up to this game, wasn't to know that he was going to pick up an injury like that, which can happen at any point. But I did say that I felt like pushing him through one more was maybe too much anyway. And unfortunately, I think we've paid the price again.
Yeah, there's some chatter online, I guess, about Burnley already being relegated. Do we need to, put people in if they're not at 100% in terms of fitness? But I think it has to be strongest team from here on out now. There's no time for rotation.
You can't overthink stuff like Arteta and the coach staff did with putting Declan Rice. It's that game. That game is the most important game, because then if you do put Burnley to sword and you win 3 or 4-0, then it's all about, again, positivity and momentum going obviously to the Crystal Palace game. So, without a shadow, go
One thing that I do not want to see this game kind of, second half still 0-0, us dragging on to the 70th minute looking for a goal. I want us to go out there, first 10 minutes, goal, and then kick on from there, because my nerves cannot take it. Cannot take it. Now it is time for our bet builder with BetMGM. Remember, you can download the app or head to betmgm.co.uk. Right, Perry, what are you going for?
When I was at school, apart from games was my favourite lesson, woodwork was my second favourite. So I'm going to go, obviously, Trossard. Not necessarily Trossard, but Arsenal tip the woodwork.
Arsenal tip the woodwork.
I'm going to go Arsenal to win to 0. We've kept a number of clean sheets. I think it's only 1 open play goal, or no open play goals actually, since that defeat against Manchester City. So it looks like we've nailed that part of the game down again. So Arsenal to win to 0.
All right, well, I'm going to go for a bit of a goal fest in this one, and over 2.5 Arsenal goals. I just think, look, the team is up at the minute. This, win at West Ham instills belief. Champions League final instills belief. So, I think I want to see loads of goals going, preferably in the first half, please. And I've got my fingers crossed for it. So just to reiterate for you, it's Arsenal to win to 0, Arsenal to hit the woodwork, and over 2.5 Arsenal goals. Right, fellas, before we wrap things up, you nervous going into the Burnley game, or are you feeling positive now? Come on.
Not yet. No, not yet. No, not yet. Just enjoy the week. I know you're saying about 8 o'clock on a Monday. I quite like it because I can enjoy the weekend as well. Do you know what I mean? Just enjoy it and then start getting a little nervous. Because if you didn't, it means you have no passion or feelings.
Yeah.
We're not arrogant enough to go, oh, it's Burnley. It's not a given. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're going to roll them over. So it's only natural.
I'm going to be nervous all weekend.
Yeah, I will be as well. I'm nervous from now, but that's just me in my nature. I would never have made it at top level because I wouldn't have been able to handle the nerves. So there you go.
All right, chaps, that is all we have got time for on today's Inside Gooners. Thank you for your company, and thank you to my amazing guests, Perry Groves and to Harry Symeou. This show is sponsored by BetMGM. Download the app or visit betmgm.co.uk, 18+. Gambleaware.org, and please gamble responsibly. 3 points again, ole ole.
1-0 to the Arsenal.
Yes, come on.